Hello, everyone. So Supergirl is out.
Specifically stayed away from Tom King's book. I really wanted to go off of this script.
The second film in the DCU lineup.
Who the fuck is that?
And it's not going well at the box office. So bad, in fact, it is doing worse than Morbius. But why? Why is a superhero film based on one of the best comics in recent years so mid? Why was a superhero film from the new DCU, which prided itself on less studio meddling and an emphasis on treating each film like its own graphic novel, having so much studio interference in the editing room? But before diving in, let's do an honest review. Supergirl is fine. Not comparing it to the comic it's based on and looking on the film at its own, it's really just a run-of-the-mill solid superhero movie. It's got its problems, but nothing so bad it falls into the horrible category. But it's so painfully average, I think that actually hurts the film more than if it was just straight up trash. I think if Supergirl came out like 10 years ago, it would have been a completely different story. Hell, I think if Phase 1 and 2 of the MCU came out today, people would not look at it as fondly as they do now. But it's 2026 and that just doesn't cut it anymore. And it's not superhero fatigue, it's the burnout of mediocrity. Especially in today's world where a ticket costs over $20. And why go see something that you know by the end of the credits you will go, it was okay. I mean, look at the amount of bombs this year alone. And it's not because audiences don't want to go watch movies. They just don't want to see bad movies. It's that simple. You simply can't get away with phoning it in anymore, in the words of James Gunn himself.
People say superhero fatigue, but I think that, you see now that it's not a real thing. People are fatigued with repetition. And I don't think it's really just superhero movies. I think you're seeing it happening now. It's spectacle films in general.
So why would you sell me on a movie that looks like this? Especially since the comic was so beautiful. Woman of Tomorrow is color, it's alien, it's wacky and absurd. It's a visual style that would be perfect for the new DCU, a way to make this film stand out against the tired, gray, and uninspired Hollywood. But man, it looks like the visual language was stripped of its uniqueness and charm. The film looks more generic. And that's not to say the movie is even that ugly. I think for the most part, the shots work, the look is consistent, and provides more visual storytelling than most blockbusters. There was clearly time and effort put into this film. However, when this is what you're adapting, I think it'd be foolish not to lean heavily into the spectacular artwork, especially since last year's Superman had the shots I was looking for. Hell, James Gunn has done the look I was expecting again and again. And I know this isn't his film, but I was really hoping that this new universe would have a bigger push for distinct visual identities. Treating each film like it's its own graphic novel.
Then why is it brown, Greg? Why? Why does it look like that? Why does it look like that? Why doesn't it look like that?
That is one big pile of shit.
And by far the worst offender has to be Krem. How do you take a character who is intentionally designed to be bland, to be generic, and make him even more generic? In a vacuum it's fine, he didn't have a particularly iconic design, but that said, him looking like a normal guy is half the point. Krem is a bad person and his actions speak for themselves. Good and bad can be anywhere and can look like anyone, and I don't think you have to cover the actor in makeup and piercings and black leather to get that idea across. The whole film, they went with this Mad Max grunge style, and in all honesty, they should have just stuck with the comic's mythical, colorful world. But by far, the worst part of this movie is...
we have no formula guest.
The editing. One of the best things about the original book was the quiet moments between Kara and Ruthie. The original novel was not afraid to let us sit with these characters as they struggled and bonded over their trauma. According to various sources, there were many problems in the editing room. The test screenings reportedly did not do well, and I think in an attempt to make this movie feel faster and less boring, they decided to trim introspective moments. Now there's nothing wrong with a fun and fast movie, which I'm sure is why Lobo was added to add a bit of excitement to the film, but the problems start to arise when our characters start to feel a little bland, and especially in their relationships with each other. And overall, it seems like characters start to speak their pain rather than showing it. It's that connective tissue between the two characters that's really missing. In the source, Ruthie's planet has never developed space travel, and throughout the run, she is bombarded with reminders of how unfathomably vast the universe is. She's on a mission of revenge while being in a world so unknown and alien. And most importantly, she is alone. Or she would be if it wasn't for someone who knew exactly how she felt. Someone who also endured the loss of everyone important to her. So the last daughter of Krypton takes on the task, an odyssey that stretches for months across the cosmos, to show Ruthie justice and good still exist, that the cycle of vengeance never stops the pain. But along the way, they both see the horrors of the universe, the evil we do to each other, the hurt we inflict. Ruthie is overwhelmed by how small she feels in this very big and messed up universe. This culminates in one of my favorite lines in the book after Ruthie learns about a genocide. "It's too big, and we're too small." These words would be later echoed by a breaking Kara, who has lost sight of the very hope she wanted to instill in Ruthie. And in a way, the book is more about Supergirl trying to remind herself what it means to be a hero. And it is here where they both inspire each other. Ruthie reminding Kara that truth and justice still means something. That good, no matter how small or insignificant it may look, still holds true. Hope that tragedy is not how our story ends, but instead with compassion. The story of Woman of Tomorrow is not about big spectacle moments. It's about Kara teaching a girl, a younger version of herself, how to wash her hands, as she tells her the story of Krypton, reminding Ruthie that the tragedies and grief do not have to define us. We do. Reading this one panel, and I think you can see where the film falters most. In its fast editing, we don't slow down nearly enough with Kara and Ruthie. The movie seems like it's trying to rush past these moments in order to get to the exciting action, and I don't necessarily think it's anyone's fault. I think the film is trying to juggle too many things that simply would not fit into a 2-hour movie.
Hi there.
The story is actively switching between introducing us to Kara and her backstory while trying to make us care and empathize with Ruthie and their relationship. But it's really hard for us to care when the film doesn't allow us to sit in silence with these individuals. Ruthie's family are slaughtered and buried in less than 5 minutes into the film, and with the choppy editing, it almost feels like there's a couple of scenes missing, a moment of introspection or grief. Overall, it just feels like there's an emotional disconnect between the characters and the audience. In the book, Ruthie is narrating the story, and it gives us the privilege to hear her thoughts and feelings as the story progresses. This allows her to feel way more involved in the story, as Ruthie genuinely feels like a protagonist up until the very end. And the film is so close to that, and that's what hurts so much. The movie is not a direct adaptation, and of course it isn't. It would not work, but damn it, you sold me the book, and I still think that a central theme could be adapted perfectly. But the movie does not spend nearly enough time in the pain and grief of these characters to make us feel it. The film really needed a few more scenes of us sitting with Kara and Ruthie in order to flesh out their relationship. For example, we should live with the loss of Ruthie's parents, just as we should sit with the grief of Kara and the pain that comes with having everyone and everything you know die a slow, painful death. And I really like the idea as we struggle with Kara as she tries to live up to her father's final message of being good. But the film looks like it's trying to answer, what does that mean? I like the idea of Kara learning her identity, understanding what her version of justice is, and how fundamentally different it is from Clark's. What does it mean to be good in a universe as messed up as ours? What does truth and justice mean in a world full of lies and suffering? I think what the film is trying to say under all the awkward editing and pacing is actually something really interesting and sincere. Perhaps we can't always be the Boy Scout like Clark, and maybe we shouldn't be. Maybe the world doesn't allow for clean moral compass, but we can be good, and we can always choose to be good, and whatever that means to you, however small, it will always be a choice. I know some people do not like the change they made to the ending, but with this version of Kara, I get what they were going for. Supergirl killing Krem is her way of taking on the weight that sat on Ruthie's shoulders. It's Kara taking the pain that so no one else ever has to, not because it's easier for her, but because of how hard it is. And not only is it her version of justice, but it's her version of being good as well. And that's what bothers me the most about this film. It has all the ingredients to make us care and to move us, but it is all sidelined to make the film funnier and faster in an attempt to make it more appealing to a general audience. For example, when Supergirl finally kills Krem, you would expect this decision to hit hard. Kara taking a life, taking on that suffering for Ruthie and all the other tortured children, this scene is really important and should be treated as such, but in the middle of that sincere moment, it is cut short by Lobo cracking a joke. And if I had one critique for the entire film that plays throughout again and again, it's cut short. The whole movie is cut short every single time. Every moment of silence, every moment of introspection is cut way too short. It's trying to be a fun summer blockbuster, but if you're going to use these themes, you really need to commit to them, and that is what is truly tragic about this movie. That and releasing your character debut film in between Toy Story 5, The Odyssey, and Spider-Man.
Who the fuck? Who is it? What? I should kick your fucking ass!
Crypto, ow, ow, stop it, stop, sit, stay. Crypto, faster than frost, baby.
Crypto, come on, man.
Where's he gonna stay?
Come on. Thanks for watching him, bitch.
Dude.